Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning!
Good morning, Kate. Oh my gosh. So I have to explain what happened this morning. Kate's telling me a funny story and I'm telling her 5, 4, 3, like we got to go. And whenever I press the go live, we then think we've come live. And then I realize, no, we haven't come live. And we're sitting there chatting about this. Kate's distracting me today.
I said, yeah, my bad. That was all on me. You would have never done that had I been on task.
Come on.
So sorry.
Girl.
Yeah, stop joking around all the time.
So welcome everyone. Good morning to those that are joining us. Please let us know that you have joined us.
Yeah, say good morning. We can't wait to see your lovely comments come in.
Yes, and also be sure to add a white heart.
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, Steph.
Yeah, if this is your first time. Oh, and yes, good morning, beautiful badasses. Someone is posting. Do you want to remind people, Kate?
Yeah, we found that even if you've done this before, for some reason, you still have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook to give permission for us to see your lovely faces.
Yes.
But I have a feeling that might be Jenna. Good morning. Or Kim.
Or Myra.
No, there's Kim.
Or
yes.
Oh, no, we have a LinkedIn user says good morning. Let us know who you are. And so it's the same process. Same type of process. And so, but Stephanie's laughing at us this morning.
Yep. So Stephanie got the book last time from Rochelle. I'm super excited.
Oh,
are you froze? Oh,
is it me or is it you?
I don't know. Someone froze for a second.
I don't know. So Eric says, good badass morning. But you were saying that Stephanie purchased the book from Rochelle last week.
Yes, I'm super excited about that because there's something brewing underneath Steph. You know, you just know that there's some big purpose there that she's got to fill.
Yeah. And so then Kim, good morning to my favorite badass ladies. That's awesome. Kim. And then joining us live today, Steve told me he was going to be joining us. So he is new to the show. He actually took the day off, maybe took it off for us, right, Steve?
Yes, right. He's new here, but he's not new to our show. We've featured him without him even being here.
That's right. He's featured him.
He's had some great quotes.
2 weeks ago, we actually featured one of his quotes. And so today he gets to interact live with us.
I love it.
Yeah. And so Carmen said, it's her. She said, please type where I have to register again. And so it's just streamyard.com/Facebook. So if you go there, then the next time you add a comment, it should see you. And Steph said, yes, I did. I want to start considering options.
Yes, I love this for you.
Yes. And good morning, Bruce. He said, welcome back, Sarah. Kate did an amazing job, didn't she? She did an amazing job. And I was so thankful Lindsay was helping her with some of the back end things. But it's always, I was talking with Carrie, and she and I were talking about how it's a little intimidating to do it all by yourself. With another person, you at least are in the middle of a conversation. But how did it feel doing it by yourself?
It was lonely. I mean, it was okay, but it was lonely. And then, when there's like the silence, that normally you would fill in, like when you're on your own, it's like, oh shit, this is all up to me. Like,
It's me. And you're laughing at your own jokes. Like, you know, that was funny,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Right. I'm hilarious. Which I do anyway, but
You do. But, you know, it's fun
Still.
to have someone else to interact with.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yes. And so today we'll count how many cups Cate has that she's drinking from. I know the number. Please, as you go through, let us know if you know how many cups she's going to drink out of today.
I'm a beverage queen.
Oh, and so Steve said, wait, I haven't received the royalty checks or haven't received the check for royalty.
We'll have our people get in touch with your people. I don't know what's happening.
Once we get them, you get them too.
Yes.
Someone else saying hello. So be sure to go to streamyard.com/Facebook just so we know who that is. Is that Myra? Is that Jenna? You know, maybe it's someone else. And so
Yes.
let us know. Apparently you have to do it each time now. I don't know what's going on.
So yeah, it's frustrating, but we appreciate you guys joining us.
Yes.
So much. We love you.
And so next Friday, I also want to just give a plug for next week. We're going to be shooting the shit again. And so Cate and me enjoy just taking a break from our regularly scheduled episodes to talk about what's on our mind. And we received such good feedback last time that you guys really enjoyed it. And so we thought, let's do it again. It's only been, I think it's been 2 months since we last did it. And we want you to join the conversation and let us know what's going on with you too.
Yep. Yeah. I'm super excited about it, actually. I think it's fun. And then we can kind of update people on what's going on in our lives as well. And so it'll be a good time. Sarah and I we shoot some good shit.
We're good at shooting the shit.
Yes.
And so
yes, we are.
So Cate, should we jump into today's topic? Both of us just love this topic.
Yeah.
And so let's dive in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Super excited.
Yeah. And so we're going to start off with a song this week. And so I actually have a video that I put together along with the music and the singing. And it really just sets up this topic, I think, really well. Cate hasn't seen it, but I gave her the lyrics. And so this will be the first time she's seeing it as well.
Yeah.
So without further ado, here we go.
Okay.
I can almost see it, that dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying, you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost with no direction. My faith is shaking, but I gotta keep trying. Gotta keep my head held high. There's always gonna be another mountain. I'm always gonna wanna make it move. Always gonna be an uphill battle. Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose. Ain't about how fast I get there. Ain't about what's waiting on the other side. It's the climb.
I loved it. It gave me goosebumps.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh, it's great. It was really beautiful. You sounded amazing.
Thank you. I enjoyed singing this one. It was, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it's actually Miley Cyrus. And so that does this version of The Climb. And I really like her because I think that she's a risk taker as well. But the lyrics, I thought, just really fit with today's topic. And so what about the lyrics sort of resonated with you, Cate?
Oh my gosh, I loved so much of it. So like the beginning when you're kind of feeling down and you've lost your direction, or you don't you lost hope, you know, that
Mhm.
the part when it said my faith is shaking. I love it. And then I love the
Yeah.
build. I love how the song then builds to the climb, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. I really liked the part where it says, "The dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying you'll never reach it."
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that really resonates a lot for today's topic is that
Mm-hmm.
when you're thinking about risk taking, it's really a lot of times that inner critical voice saying, well, you'll never do it. Or as we get into it,
Mm-hmm.
it may be someone else. But I agree with you. I like my faith is shaking. The other thing I really liked about it in the lyrics is that there's always going to be another mountain. So there's
Yes.
always a
Yes.
challenge in with risk taking, and it's always going to be an uphill battle, and sometimes you're going to have to lose, and that's where people tend to be scared about the losing past part. But it's also about it's not about how fast you get there. Risk taking doesn't have to be immediate, and I think a lot of times people want immediate whenever they're
Mm,
risk taking, but ultimately it's just about what's on the other side, and it's about the climb and about learning ultimately from that experience. And so,
yeah.
if I had to sort of summarize, if you can't stay, you know, we hope you do, but that's ultimately, really what risk taking is. And so, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
Kate, let's also just talk about what is risk taking. So, when you think about taking a risk, how would you define it?
Mm. um, so it's about, decisions that you're making that involve like some uncertainty, right? Like so many decisions do. But where you like are literally, you're going to evaluate the outcome. You're going to look at, okay, is this going to be an outcome of rewards, or is this going to be something more negative, some negative consequences, perhaps? So
Yeah.
that's what I think it's all about. It's about those decisions.
I agree. It's really about weighing. So a lot of people think about risk as negative. I actually look at the reward of risk. And I
Yes.
think that a lot of times risk is really about your mindset on
Mm-hmm.
how it is you perceive it. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And so go ahead, Kate.
And
Did you have
well,
something?
you also always say it's really, it's looking at the reward or the negative consequence, but seeing things also as an opportunity.
Yes.
You often use that.
Yeah, so I'm going to post the question that we have today. Can you tell today
Yeah.
what it is while I type this out for them?
Yeah, so tell us a time you took a risk and it paid off, and a time you took a risk and it didn't pay off. And we're going to do the same.
Yeah. And so I really love this question. And Kate and I started thinking about some of the times we've taken a risk and it's paid off. But I think it's also important to talk about the times that it didn't, because
Yeah.
that's really a lot of times where the learning lesson in things come and play. And so I'd like to
Yes.
start off, if I could, Kate.
Yeah. Jump
And
in.
so the time that I took a risk that it paid off was actually, and I mentioned this because I was briefly there during the show last week, and it really has set us up for today. So I mentioned with Michelle's show. So if you haven't seen that, or not Michelle, Rochelle Moulton, if you haven't seen her show, go back and watch her. But she talks about risk taking, which really sort of set us up for today. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I mentioned is that when I was in the architectural engineering and construction industry, I started working with someone on software. And it was a passion of mine. I'd always been helping people ultimately with that. But I had my consultant and I was like, how do I get into this? I want to do what you're doing. And so, which is a bit of a risk because I'm going outside of what it is that I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to a completely different type of job. But I knew that I was
Right.
really good at it. And I was like, I really enjoy this. And so I asked him, how do I get into this? Is Deltec hiring? And he was like, no, no, no. Deltec's not hiring. I think he just didn't want anybody competing with him. And so he said, go to the partners. There are multiple partners. You can find them on the website. And so I did. I literally went to each of them and gave them a call. I called every single owner on there, and I spoke to multiple of them. And at that time, they were very regional, so they
Okay.
they were like, oh, you're not really in our region, so called this person. So I called up Kevin O'Connor, who was the president at that time. And at the time they had like a splash page. And with that, and I don't know if people know what that is, but it's just a one-page website, and that's all that they had. And he ended up answering the phone call unbeknownst to me. And I said, hi, my name is Sarah Mackley at the time. And I said, I'm looking for a position that is marketing and CRM consulting or CRM consulting. I wanted to see if you had something within your company. And he said, well, are you looking for yourself or are you a recruiter? And I said, I'm looking for myself. And he said, well, I've happened to have a position open for 6 months and have yet to have one resume.
Wow.
And so had I not done that, had I not called him up, I could have missed out a chance that really was meant for me. And here he is 6 months in and has no one that is actually applying for this position. And so I ended up interviewing with him. I ended up getting the position. For the first time, I had a utilization rate. So I understood the pains of project managers now and all of the consultants and having a utilization rate. But I was doing dual roles of a marketing director and a CRM consultant. So for me, that was one of the things that I did that I felt like paid off, was a risk that I took. And but when you really think about it, for me, I didn't really see it as a risk. But when I talk to other people, there are a lot of people that just can't imagine picking up a phone and just calling the president and saying, hey, I want a position basically at your company. Most people are going through the normal process of submitting their resume and they don't hear back from them, so they get upset. And so the risk is doing something different. And so my other story is actually about the same concept of going after something and not getting it. And so it was again with a position. I really, really loved this company and I wanted to work for them. I was really excited about this particular position. And so I was so excited. I wanted to differentiate myself from the other individuals. So I actually got a box, put a balloon that said, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was inflated. And then I had a basically thank you letter attached to a string that as it came up, the thank you letter was down below of them interviewing me. And I didn't get the position, but they called me personally and said, I just felt like I needed to call you because of my creativity and what it is, the risk that I was taking and doing something different. And so it just showed me that taking a risk and doing something different, even though I didn't get the position, I wasn't the right fit of what they were looking for. That's okay. I still learned that by taking a risk and doing something outside of the box, literally outside of the box, that it's worth it, because they ended up personally calling me back because I felt so obligated because I was demonstrating how much I wanted the position.
Right. And you did this. Yeah. You did this awesome thing. I think that's super cool. I love that idea. That's really cool. One thing I thought of that when you were talking and you were saying, at the time I didn't even see it as a risk. And I think that's something that we haven't talked about yet, but I think the people that are really good at risk taking half the time don't even realize it, because it's their mantra, So if you're looking for good risk takers to kind of model for you, or be good examples of what risk taking looks like. Go to the people that are just kind of always, always getting to that next level, but not necessarily, knowing that they're taking risks to get there.
Yeah.
Right? Until afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a great point. And I sort of realized it as I was telling the story, because for me, thinking back on it, it was a risk because I think and I didn't really realize that until I talked to other people, and they were like, oh, I'm not sure I would pick up the phone and just start calling a bunch of presidents. With a company. I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, seriously.
Right.
And I think that's half of it, is that and we're going to get into this, but it's evaluating like what would happen. Like, what if I do call them and they say no? They said no. Right. It's almost like dating. Like, a lot of people are so scared to even go like ask the person out. I found that I was the person typically asking people out, because I was like, if I want something, I'm going to go after it.
Right. Yeah. You might as well.
Yeah. So I want to stop for just a second before we get into yours, just to highlight a couple of things.
I was going to suggest the same thing, and I'm hoping that more of you. We've got a couple of comments coming in, but please share your stories. We'd love to highlight them.
Yes. And so Bruce said, I had dinner last night with Jesse. Does that count as a risk? I don't know. It could. It depends.
Yes.
And so I like Steve's here. He said, when I was a teenager, I learned to embrace false summits while walking parts of the Appalachian Trail. I pivoted from, I'm not there yet, to wait, there's more. A better mindset.
Yes. I love that. Seeing the next level up as an opportunity rather than a trudge, right?
Yeah. And so Bruce said, I had 2 consecutive jobs closed due to principals. Maleficence? What's the word?
I don't know.
Maleficence? You'll have to help me, Bruce. And I was offered some small jobs and thought, what about going on my own? And it turned into my business. And so I love that. And so half the time, and I see this a lot. One of the things that we tend to also find in our business is that you'll have people that will be acquired. So a company acquires a firm, and then all of a sudden you'll see someone that's like, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to go start my own business. And so it's one of those things that you finally get tired of whatever it is you're dealing with and say, you know what? I'm ready. I'm at a point that I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Leslie says, here's my story. I don't risk shit. I'm here to learn how to be a badass. Love you, ladies. So
love you, Leslie. Fuck yeah.
I know.
That is risky. That is taking a risk. You are seeing something that doesn't come naturally to you, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do something about it. It is, a lot of people just accept that.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about your specific situation here and how some of the benefits. And so maybe today you will take maybe a vow, or make a pledge to yourself to maybe try some risk taking. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'd love to hear also maybe some ideas or things that people really want to do, but they haven't figured out how to do it, or what are the steps to get there. And so we're going to talk a little bit about steps to get there. But I'd love to hear from people on something they really want to take a risk on, but they're too scared to do.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
All right. Carrie says, in the world's worst dater, I'm the world's worst dater, but I'm all about other risk. Isn't it ironic? And so Alanis Morissette would agree.
Yes, it is, but we're manifesting a special someone for you.
We are. And so what do we say? It was by November? Is that right?
Yes, by October. I thought October, so they could be cuddle up and.
Yeah. So
the
I knew that this is what it was going to be for Leslie. It's stand-up comedy.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. I love that.
So, and he's helping me malfeasance.
Malfeasance. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. And so, yep. And Bruce said steps to get there. And so I
Yes.
love that. And so Stephanie has a long one. So I was a part-time facilities person for Deltec. I just left the Marriott after 27 years, so I had no idea what the software world was like. The SDR, which is sales development representative team, was looking for another hire, and they convinced me to apply. These were all young adults, and I was long in the tooth back then. I got the job as an SDR, which was way out of my comfort level, but started my career with Deltec and haven't looked back. Big thanks to Sarah for being supportive from the very beginning. So I got to tell you, Stephanie, I think that it was your, what'd you say, long tooth or your
Long in the
long in the
tooth.
tooth back then that actually made the difference between you and some of the younger individuals, because it really takes a little bit more maturity in a lot of ways from an SDR perspective, because it requires listening instead of just talking. And I think that actually is the thing that actually differentiated you between the
Mhm.
other individuals. So,
Yeah, I
and so
agree.
Carrie said it's October. October.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Kate,
Yeah.
tell us a time
Okay.
you took a risk and it paid off.
I'm gonna go a totally different direction
Oh,
because I had a day yesterday of mindfulness. I took a mental health moment, I call it, but then it turned into the rest of the day, which is fine sometimes, right? You know,
that's
if
right.
you have a understanding boss and you know, and PTO to use. So I so I've been thinking about this. So I'll tell you, I took a huge risk when I met with my wife. So Jenna is the ultimate risk taker, right? She's so good at it, and I'm really good at it too. But she is even better at it in a lot of ways. So she took a huge risk to when we met, to come up and be like, you know what, I want to date you, and I was like, you know what, pretty sure you think you're straight, and pretty sure that I am way more mature than you, and I am way set in my lesbian ways, and you're not even like, this is a playground for you. This isn't even, this is real life for me, but this is a playground for you.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I'm gonna get my way in there. And within minutes, we really like, I felt this huge connection, right? But in all honesty, she was married. And even though she had an open marriage where she could date other women, her husband at the time wasn't worried about that. He did not see that as a threat. So, it was a huge risk for me. And the first time this is a story of it kind of going both ways. The first time we kind of put ourselves out there, it didn't work out. It ended up not working out for us. And later it did. It certainly paid off. But it was a huge risk to be, I really struggled with it at the time. I do remember struggling with it. I do remember weighing the benefits. But I felt like I was being a homewrecker. I felt like, even though he didn't see this as a threat, I knew I was a threat. I knew we were falling in love. I knew that we were going to be wrecking this marriage, eventually. And that was hard for me. But it totally paid off. And I'm so grateful that we both took that risk, that she initiated and then I followed.
Yeah.
So that's an example kind of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a more recent example is Jenna and I with our finances. We have taken a lot of risks.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always done better and better and leveled up for ourselves. Some of them have paid off, but some of them have not paid off. And there have been some negative consequences that we are dealing with.
Yeah.
And it is a take 2 steps back, take 2 steps forward, take a step back, take some steps forward, take a step back. And it is exhausting. It is stressful. The wonderful thing is that she and I are aligned. So we're doing this together and figuring this all out. But man, is there not some regret involved sometimes, right? So like you sit there and you're like, if I hadn't taken that risk, maybe things would be different now. The ones that didn't pay off, but as I was kind of processing some of this stuff yesterday, the truth is that more of my risks have paid off. More of our risks have paid off than not, right? So even when you get to that point where you're kind of like down about it a little, you have to just focus on the positive, like you did with the balloon. Like, hey, I didn't get the job, but I got a reaction and I got a thank you and I got some praise for being a fucking genius and coming up with this amazing idea, right? And when you're with your family finances or when you're an adult, a lot of times you don't get feedback, like, right? Like, no, the bank doesn't call me and say, hey, that paid off for you. Good job, Kate. They don't do that. Once in a while I'll tell my dad something and he'll be like, nice, very well done. But most of the time when you're an adult, these risks that you take, you don't get the feedback, that you want to keep you going, and you have to give it to yourself. So you have to look back, check your facts, see what paid off, make sure you're not catastrophizing, for the next time you want to take that type of risk.
Right. Yeah, I really love that, because as you think about the risk, and I don't know the specific risks that you have taken there, but I can imagine that, especially when they don't pay off, you get discouraged and you think, oh man, was this really worth me doing? But then you have to sit down and evaluate, okay, well, what are the positives? And you really can't control the what if scenarios. It's more, and that's the biggest thing that I think when you're thinking about risk, you're thinking about the consequences, thinking about the potential benefits and weighing those. And as we start to go through this, it's about being comfortable with the uncomfortable is the thing that I like to say is, are you comfortable with the uncomfortable of what might potentially happen? And I think that people are in different levels with that. And we even pulled some statistics from Northwestern Mutual. And so this was based on the average American. They found that they're actually fairly conservative whenever it comes to financial risk tolerance. And then they also found some additional things that from that survey, that not only are they risk adverse from a finance perspective, but they also tend to go down the safer route in other areas. And so, Kate, I'll go ahead and pull those up if you want to go over them.
Yes. So in careers, 65% of people prefer the stability and the consistency and they stick to one career rather than risk moving around. I think this would be a great time to show Kim's comment, because here's an example. Kim just shared with us and got vulnerable with all of us when she said she switched from teaching special education elementary students to working at home and supporting firms with their software. So she was good with people, but not technology. I knew the people I would be working with were amazing, but was both excited and very terrified to face my technology fears and learn. And she's so thankful she did. She loves her job and she learns more every day. So it's very well worth the risk. Yeah, I love that, Kim. So, you were then a part of the 35% that was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a huge pivot here and switch careers. And you're so happy you did. But imagine if that fear had, kept you from pursuing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is one of the areas that a lot of people tend to really fear. And one of the things I want to point out about this and some of the other things that come up is when I have found that when people don't take the time to really develop a support system or a network, not only in their business career, but also in their personal career, that's when taking risks tend to be a little harder to do. And
Yeah.
so in your career, and I can say this about some individuals that I know, I won't name any names, but they've been in their career 20 plus years doing the exact same thing, and now they're considering changing, but they didn't take the time to like network with other people along the way to
Mm.
be able to provide them that same type of option.
Mhm.
And I'm going to pull up because it sort of fits with this next one as well, where people live. 76% of people prefer to have the stability of staying in one place a long time. So I think about like where I grew up, most people are very close to where they grew up or still in that same town. I'm one of the very few people that, I can think of, a few individuals even in my
Right.
class that actually have moved out of state. Um,
Right.
and so I think about those types of things, and I think it has to do with comfort of people are comfortable with what they know. And it's also having connections. And I think the reason I was comfortable with moving out of state was because my sister had already done it. I actually
Yeah.
moved to a state that she was in. So it allowed me to be a little bit more comfortable. But it still was different. I was in a different location. So it's like thinking about connecting to all new people. I don't know anybody. You can't rely
Right.
upon anybody because you don't know anybody in this area. Where in a small town, like, everybody, and you can call upon people, but there's also the con of that. Everybody knows your business too. And so
Right.
when you go to a big town or things like that, nobody knows you. You don't have people to necessarily call upon to help you, but they also aren't in your business.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. The Jen and I talk about this a little bit, as lately as well, because we're back. We now live in the city that I, grew up in.
Hmm.
It's a city that Jen and I met. We have lived in other parts of the state throughout our, 17 years together, but it's been funny to be back here in the very city I, was raised. I'm literally in the neighborhood I was raised in. And
Yeah.
that feels so strange to me in a lot of ways because, and Jenna too, because we are both such risk takers, movers and shakers. Prior to us kind of settling down in this home, we moved every couple of years and loved it. It was
Hmm.
just who we were. Um, but there's also some beauty and stability, I think, as well, and it really, it all matters. It all comes down to, what fits you the best. But
Yeah.
um, we
I
tend to,
Yeah, and I think about me growing up as well. Like I was in the same house. By the way, I haven't shown you these, but I got amazing photos from the person that lives there now and all the
oh,
changes they've
cool.
made. And so I would love to be able to show that on the show. I wish I had like real before pictures, but it was quite the trip to see your old house. But the reason I'm saying this is
Evolve.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, is I lived in this house for 18 years until I
Mhm.
actually moved out of the house. So I had that stability growing up. So I think that that also can make a difference as well, because when
Right.
you have stability growing up, sometimes people might want to continue that stability, or it
Right.
might actually allow them some freedom to maybe take some more risk as well. And so
Yes.
it just depends. But I could also imagine people that, for Jenna, for example, she didn't have stability growing up. And
Right.
so I would imagine as she grows up, she really is desiring stability because she didn't necessarily have that growing up as well.
Right. Right. She wanted it came down to us, both of us wanting a place that our kids can come back to later, similar to what you experienced, right?
Mhm.
We, in 2020, Jen and I took the kids on huge road trips, because I was able to work from wherever. So we went on a ton of road trips. That's how we kind of handled the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
because we could be outside or masked, and we went to California, and we did kind of a tour of the places she lived. And, it was, we had to see so many places, of course, because there were many of them.
Yeah.
But also, when we got down to it, how cool would it have been if we could have just stayed in one and really sucked up that energy, or, rather than, like, I feel like I looked back, and even as we talk about memories, she'll be like, oh yeah, that's the place in Oakdale, or that's the place here. It's still all kind of like, I saw 10 different places when we went. It's really hard to put it all together. I can't imagine what Jenna goes through with all those memories in her head.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we just went back. So I just had a family reunion. Then we went back. So I went to Cape Girardeau, and then went back to Farmington, Missouri, which is where I grew up. And then we went to St. Louis, went to a Cardinals game and stuff like that. But going back to Farmington, my kids are finally at an age that I was able to go, okay, here's where I grew up, this house. And then this house was my great aunt. This house was my grandfather and grandma's house. This was,
Right.
We went and met my great grandma, or my great aunt, who was 99 years old. And that was a blast. Just meeting
Yes.
her, because she is still just sharp as a whip. She's starting to, at 99, starting to lose a little bit of her hearing, but she's still the person that goes around and gives out the mail to everybody. And so when you think about, taking risk and things like that, and 99, she is continuing to take risk, because we convinced her, like, let's go out for ice cream, and
Right.
and so that in itself at that age is taking a risk.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the next one was activities. 72% take part in zero risk activities. Or
Zero.
zero risk activities. And so I think about myself, like, I've done skydiving.
Right.
And I was always more adventurous whenever I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I'm not as a risk taker with things.
Right.
Like, my kids and my husband are still risk takers in some ways, but I think as I've gotten older, I'm becoming less risk seeking when it comes to activities.
Yeah, or like is I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it more the physical side? Because it is,
Sure.
As your body has changed, it's like, I don't know, like my like roller coasters are a great example.
Oh gosh.
And a lot of people, as they, even if they loved roller coasters, as they age, they're like, I can't handle them anymore.
Yeah.
Last Friday we were having a conversation amongst friends, and my friend Kimmy was like, I can't do them anymore. Like, I literally can't do them. And my friend Rachel is like, I can still do them, and I love them,
Yeah.
So it's, some of it is just that, right? That's part of why.
Yeah. As Leslie says, we are break a hip age now.
We are, right. It's just, and once you have like an injury like that, it changes how you think about things, or maybe it should.
Yeah. And so I do think that it's that. I remember when Jay's daughter was 15, we went to Six Flags, and I loved roller coasters growing up. Like, I was on them nonstop. And so we went on them, and then we ended up getting on Superman, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nauseous. Like, I just can't handle this the way that I used to. But I remember then years ago, I ended up doing another one when we were at Deltec had actually, it was Universal. And there was one that we did that went like the biggest story, like all the way up. And I loved it. It was fun. I think it was just that specific type of roller coaster of being like on your stomach that I just couldn't handle. And so I think I still would do roller coasters, or at least try them with my daughter. She actually went with some neighbors recently and found she loves roller coasters. As you guys saw in that Fearless episode with her.
Yes.
So I still think there are some things that I would do, but I do think that, I think about my bonus son, he is not into roller coasters or anything high. He didn't go up to the arch, so my daughter and I went up on the arch all the way up, and things like that. And so some people are just more risk adverse,
Mm-hmm.
even at a younger age. And so
Yes, that is so true. And I think like when it comes to activities, like Stephanie has a great point. She says she's gone from being a big risk taker to zero.
mm,
She just sees the possibility of disaster everywhere she looks,
ooh,
and it's it is hilarious because that's real, and like to see the difference between what you used to be. But I also feel like that's just how it happens too. It's like just the human experience. As we get older, we love more, we have absorbed more experiences, we have more stuff under our belt, and it's hard to not relate those activities to a risk, right? To be like,
mm-hmm,
okay, yeah, that's scary for these reasons. And that happens in parenting, right? So like Jen and I are now, parenting an 18-year-old who is taking all sorts of risks. Luckily they're not super dangerous, so
yeah,
that's been helpful. But like, it's just basically, being there to watch and support and love without judgment of the fact that he needs to take these risks. We both know it. And even though we may feel as though we see the future, like we see the consequences of the risk, that if we want to stay in good communication with him, where he shares the things he has taken, the risks he is
mm,
making, it's not our place to judge him. It's our place to, support and love and be there for him if he needs it, right?
yeah, I think that's huge. And I'm sorry about the extra noise there. I was trying to pull up Facebook so I could see who is making some of these comments in here. And so I was pulling that up. But I want to point on something you just said. So with our kids, a lot of times we really influence them on whether they're going to take a risk or not. And so
Right.
what you just said is if you went back to him and he took a risk and it didn't pay off, and you said, "Well, see, you know,
I told you so.
that's told you so, that's what you get," instead of, you know what, well, what did you learn from it,
Mm-hmm.
and what would you do different next time, or it's all about
Mm-hmm.
how as parents we're also approaching risk taking. We can influence our kids in their ability to do things. Maybe
Right.
we're not good at something, that doesn't mean they won't be good at that and won't get different results.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Perfect
want
example. Oscar he went to a festival and he went to a beer tent and he didn't get carded and he got a beer and he was super excited about it. And he texted Jen and I a picture of him drinking a beer, and we could have responded like, that's illegal. You're too young for that. We just were like, how did that feel, buddy? And he was like, so cool, and he was able to kind of geek out a little bit about it with our support. Yeah, I remember getting my first beer without being carded. That's so cool, right? It's fun. Yeah, enjoy. Be safe, please. Enjoy.
Yes, exactly. So I'm gonna pull up a couple of comments. So Carrie said
Oh,
people
yes.
choose the devil they know instead of trying something different.
Yes.
Yep. And
Yes.
I'm gonna pull this up. This is why I wanted to pull up and see who this was.
Who
So
is this?
this is Casey. Casey said, "Disaster is my middle name."
It really is, Casey. I agree with you.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you there for a minute, Casey. So you saying disaster is your middle name, you're owning disaster, just so you know. And so if you don't want to be disaster and you want opportunity to be your name, then start saying risk taking and opportunities are my name. Just so you know, when you're saying disaster is your name, you're telling the universe disaster is gonna be your name.
Yeah. Bring on the disasters, universe.
I
Let's
know. So
attract them.
unless that's what you want, I'm just saying.
He said absolutely. He understands.
And he said, "Me too. I was with Jay." I don't know what that means. And see, but he did say absolutely. And
Yes.
so Bruce says our risks change over the course of our lives, I think. And so, yeah, I think, that's exactly what we were talking about, is that right at the beginning, you may be more risk, uh, you know, willing to take a risk, and then you become more risk adverse as you get older. And so let's go to the
Yes.
last one, which is 66% tend to stick to those they already know to avoid social chances. So social lives. So in your social living. And I know for me, this was really rough in my life for a period of time, because I'm in a state that I didn't grow up with
Right.
anybody, and everybody's always like, "Oh yeah, I know that person. They're so and so's, cousin." And growing up in my town, where I grew up, I could have done those types of things, but I don't have any of those types of relationships where I'm at. And I remember a period of my time, in my life, that it was really hard,
Yeah.
because I just felt like I didn't have a support system. And I remember taking a effort of, okay, how can I connect with more people? And for
Mhm.
me, it was connecting more with people that are actually in my area. So, like, I was connected to other people, but I wasn't connected to people that I could do something with in
Mm.
my specific location. That's what
Right.
I was struggling with. And so, for me, it really helped me, even though my husband wasn't from this area. One of the things he's really good at is he's just really charismatic, and people are just drawn to him because he's just fun. He's just a good time.
Right.
so,
Right.
so I actually, a lot of times it was him being that person. And so I would work with him, and I'd be like, I'm looking for another female that I can really connect with, or someone else that I can connect with. And it took time. It also took me sort of maybe thinking a little bit out side of the box as well.
Mhm.
So for one of the things, for example, you and I, started to connect. And even though you're not here locally, there were certain aspects, different things, because I'm a very complex person, is the
Right.
best way that I can put it, is that I really was seeking deeper conversations. And it wasn't that I
Yes.
wasn't connecting with these other people in other ways. It was just that this one thing I felt like I was lacking. Like, I
Yeah.
wanted someone that I could really talk deeply with, and talk about all kinds of things, like, not being afraid to talk about any topic out there. And that's
Right.
really what I sought. And really, for me, that came from you. As I started to
Yeah.
connect with you, I mean, I even told Kate a story of, like, at times I felt lonely. I felt like I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I remember sort of manifesting it, like, this is what I'm seeking. And it ended up happening to me, but I didn't even realize it was happening to me.
Yeah.
And I ended up one day telling Kate this story, and she was like, I'll be your best friend. And I just thought it
Yeah.
was the sweetest thing ever. And for me, that is really what Kate is someone that I could have a deep conversation with. And it was something that was important to me.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's, one, so cool that you were vulnerable to seek that, right?
Mhm.
Like you felt safe to share that, and then you were able to get it and manifest it, like just like you do everything, anything you want, you manifest and make it happen for yourself. Um, and I think it's harder as you get older, right? It's
Mhm.
because it, it's hard, like where are you going to make new connections? And you also are like, it's you have your own values, right? So you have values as I think you should have values as a young adult too, but it's like as you gain more experiences, you get hopefully even more secure in what your values are, and it's really hard to kind of like suss out, who's going to align with these values, who's
Mhm.
going to be the right fit for me, who's going to feel good and safe, right? And
Yep.
then add on a virtual environment that you're spending the majority of your time in, right? You're spending so much time not in Decula, Georgia, right? Or not,
Mhm.
right? You're spending so much time elsewhere because you're virtual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think all of those are important. And when you think about taking a risk in all of those different areas, one of the things that we wanted to focus on today is what are the benefits of, and what is it that people are missing out by not taking a risk? And so for me, some of the things have to do with being willing to learn things that you might not otherwise have learned, or developing new skills. And so a lot of times, even in our business life, and just as Kim illustrated, it was that technology aspect of, oh my gosh, I've got to learn something new. And a lot of
Right.
times that's what keeps people from going and saying, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do it. So, Leslie, for example, it's learning some of those things and maybe slowly thinking about the benefits of what being a stand-up comedian might be, and how can you do it in smaller increments. So
Yes.
maybe we should bring Leslie on our show, because she has a loving audience, to maybe try out some stand-up comedy with a group of people that will love you. And you
Yeah.
start slowly doing those things. But what are the things that you would need to learn, or the skills that you would need to identify that you would need to learn in order to be able to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is all about the people. I see it. It's all about the people you surround yourself with, right? As you're making
Mhm.
these huge changes. Yep. There you go.
Yep. And I've been telling Leslie this for years. I'm like, Leslie, you need to be a stand-up comedian. And she does certain things like on her Facebook page and things like that. But I'm like, you have so much potential talent within you that I think that in some ways she's missing her calling.
Mm,
And so Leslie is just an amazing individual. She's funny as shit. But I think it's developing that voice. It's figuring out, okay, what will my shtick be? What is it, that, so it's figuring that type of thing out. But the best way to do it is to do it in smaller increments, and maybe we are it. And yeah, we're going to call you out on it. And so, and
yes.
and I'm going to start thinking about an appropriate time, maybe around your birthday next year. So preparing on April Fool's Day, which is her birthday.
That's amazing. You were made to be a comedian. You were
I
born on April
know.
Fool's Day. Come on.
And so, so some of the other things that we miss out on is taking a risk spurs creativity. And so when you take
Mm,
a risk, even if a joke failed, or even if something didn't, happen, think about like the thing that I talked about. I was thinking outside of the box. It didn't pay off, but think about the creativity that went into taking that risk. And so that to me isn't a failure in coming up with something that was creative.
right. Yeah. I love that because creativity is something that's hard to spur,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't just sit down and be like, well, I'm going to be creative right now. Like it doesn't work that way, So I love looking at risk taking as a catalyst for
Mhm.
creativity, right? So that is kind of a little formula that you can follow. If you get good at taking risks, knowing that that's going to provide the foundation for more creativity, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I know. And it really also, from that creativity, it can create an opportunity for a change in your life. And so, as an example, if Kate and I hadn't done this show, that was taking
Right.
a risk as well. Like, we could have come out, and what it is that we did, it could have flopped, it could have failed. And, but for us, we decided that we really enjoyed just communicating with each other. So we were like, even if no one comes, like, we just enjoy this time together to really make it like talk about all of these different type of
Yeah.
topics. So it was about our mindset in, we don't give a shit. Like, if it if it doesn't
Right.
work, we still find value out of
Right.
doing it.
Yeah, like we have this deep connection and ability to talk about anything with each other. And if for us, it made sense to just try to take that on the road, like let's see if others, resonate with this. And if they don't, well, shit, we're still going to have fun. So you can take a scenario and you can think of the worst case. You can do all the catastrophizing you can think of. Like we could have thought of, well, what if it fails? Or what if we say something that we shouldn't? Or what if, someone in our professional world thinks it's like too casual or not professional enough and they don't want to work with us. There could have been all of the worst case scenarios that we could have landed on, but those were never even brought up in our minds or our conversations because we squashed them immediately with thinking, okay, you know what? We're doing this for us. And if we can help maybe one person, that's good enough, right? One person gets something out of this, then we've done our job. We've displayed and modeled vulnerability and deepness in a different way.
Exactly. And it also, one of the other benefits is developing an emotional resilience. Like, even if this didn't work for us, it's still showing us, hey, we're willing to get out there and be vulnerable. So that is helping us from an emotional perspective and also showing that we can survive, like we can do these types of things. And I remember whenever I first was promoting this, I had an individual that I really enjoy listening to, that he has particular things that he talks about, and he messaged me back and he said, he was congratulating me on basically taking a risk, and he thought that it was interesting that we had the word badass in the title, because in a professional setting, having cuss words is taking a risk. And he sort of pointed that out, but he also was sort of saying, like, I'm not sure I'm ready to take that leap as well. Like, bravo for you. For me, however, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. And you got to respect that. Like, everybody has their different comfort levels, but he was still encouraging me, but letting me know from a professional perspective, being involved, he wasn't sure that was the right move for him. And I've had other individuals that I've reached out and said, hey, I really would love to have you come on the show. And because of like their religious beliefs and things like that, because I see value in some of the things that they have, they felt like it was too much of a risk for them to be associated with a word of badass. And that's okay. Everyone has their different levels of comfort level. But I think that for us, it really, the other benefit is that we feel more engaged, we feel more happy, and we've really seen that from the people that we're talking to each week, that it really helps lift them up, as well. As Jenna said here, thank you for another badass start to a Friday. Love you both. Very inspiring. And so let's quickly, I know we're over time, but let's talk about the steps that, as people are thinking about risk, what are some of the steps that they should think about when dealing with risk? And so I want to start this off just by saying, instead of approaching it as a fear-based thinking about risk, we want you to change your perspective and say, what is the opportunity in front of us? And what should I keep in mind when targeting it? And so, Cate, maybe you can start us off with, what is the first step people should think about when approaching risk?
Yeah, and this is exactly how you can take a strategic approach to targeting it, right? Seeing it as an opportunity, and then here are the steps you can take. So the first thing is, what are the rewards of this opportunity? What could happen? What are the rewards? Second thing, what consequences should we consider? So, you think of the rewards, and then what are the negative things that could happen out of this? Then you kind of you plan for them. So what steps could I take to reduce or eliminate those consequences? So that is key, to actually sit down and put yourself in the negative and think about, okay, what can I do to attempt to avoid this?
So let's take an example. So Leslie, she wants to do stand up. So what are the
Mm-hmm.
rewards of that opportunity? She might feel more fulfilled and feel like she's actually experiencing more creativity, more confidence, more success in something she actually really would love to do. So when you think
Yeah.
about it in that way, but then think about the consequences, like what are the real consequences? I think where people get bogged down in the consequences is what if I'm not successful? What if it doesn't, what if people, I don't know, laugh at me, or people, well, you want people to laugh at you as a comic, but what if people, like say,
It doesn't,
don't
right.
laugh at you, the
Yeah.
opposite. But really, what is the risk of doing it? People don't laugh. Like, who gives a shit? So they don't laugh. You figure out something else. You do something different in what it is that you want. So she said, possible consequences. I poop my pants
Yeah.
on stage. That's funny, Leslie. I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah, poop is funny. And yeah, I mean that it would be literally scaring the shit out of you, right?
Yeah. And so, the third one is, what steps could I take to reduce and eliminate the consequences? So, coming into a venue that some people, bring some of your people that
Mm-hmm.
that will help support you in that, and then give you real feedback like, hey, here's what was funny to me, here was something that wasn't as funny, but you still have a group of people that will be there to support you. So
Right.
thinking about those things to sort of reduce the consequences, maybe trying out little small snippets of comedy. And then the
Yep.
fourth one was, how comfortable are we with accepting the consequences? So how will we develop comfort in uncomfortability? And so what is it that you could do? How are we comfortable? So it's, how comfortable are we with accepting the consequences? So let's say nobody laughs.
Right.
How comfortable are you with that? Like, would that really bother you? Would that take you down? And so figuring out how it is that you can overcome that, or think of it differently, focusing on, okay, what did people laugh at versus what did people not laugh at? So then building upon that. And I have to say that every comic talks about this in building the repertoire. And so you just really have to get your mindset comfortable with that uncomfortable. And
And
then,
yeah, and maybe plan what will you say?
yes,
If nobody's laughing, how can I transition that, or how can I acknowledge the weirdness that I'm experiencing right now before I shit my pants? I want to, acknowledge that I'm in a weird situation here in front of all of you.
yeah, and I think all
Yeah.
comics have a particular comeback, in whenever they bomb, or whenever someone says something. So it's thinking about those types of things. But the fifth one is, what is the worst case scenario? Like, and then thinking about that, and is it really that bad? And how do you plan for it? So as Kate was saying, what are the things then you would say when it's just really that bad? Um,
Yep.
and then 6 is, what would you do if the worst case scenario happened?
Right. Yeah, you do like a little cope ahead, right? So like
Or 7.
you literally say, okay, the catastrophe that I'm thinking that could happen, okay, it happens. Now what do I do?
Yep.
How do I get through it?
But number 7, Kate, I think is what people a lot of times are really scared about.
What would you do if the best case scenario happened?
Yeah.
Right? So like you get what you want.
Mhm.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times is what people are really fearful of, is that, what if I'm actually really good? Now I've got a decision to make. Do I actually go down this path, or do I stay where I have stability and comfort in my day to
Right.
day? I think that that's really what sometimes people are more scared about.
Yes. Yep.
She said, if they don't laugh, plan step 1. Step 2, cry. So then number 8, the last one is bouncing this off of someone else to check the facts. Are you so concerned about the consequences that you're overlooking the reward? And
Right.
so I think this one's super important. What do you think, Kate?
Yeah, this is again a mindset. We've all been talking about that since the beginning of this episode. Huge mindset shift, like Steve talked about, but you kind of you allow yourself to really be open with yourself about where your thoughts are leading you toward, right? Is it really just that I'm ignoring the good because the bad is more prevalent, or the bad is more scary? The bad has more drama associated with it. Like, what is it? And being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's
I
cute.
think the other key thing to think about is it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of times people think, oh, if I take a risk, it's got to be all of this. What if it's
Right.
just a part of it? What if you do it in small increments? So maybe it's not everything all at once. So how can you do it in steps as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Break it down. Just like anything you want to tackle, break it down. And try to think of it as something that is in your sweet spot, right?
Hmm.
So compare something, that you're scared of to take the risk to something where you wouldn't be scared of to take the risk because you've done it before, or you know it, or it's what you're good at, right? Like, so for me, it would be cold calling. Like, how can I, like, cold calling is something that I'm good at that a lot of people are too scared of to do, right?
Yeah.
And I can compare another risk that I'm considering to, okay, I know how to do cold calling. I know the steps that I follow. Can I leverage that process in here in this area that I'm scared?
Yeah. I like that a lot. And so I know that I was scared to do cold calling in the past, and it just took, like, doing it. It doesn't mean I'm the
Hmm.
best at it,
Hmm.
but it's also just continuing to learn from the process. And
Right.
so Steph said, "Need to leave for a meeting, but thank you, ladies. Hope you have a great weekend." And so I think, Kate,
You
we
too.
are wrapping up as well, and I
Yes.
I hope that, we helped you sort of think about risk taking in your own life and evaluating if there are maybe some areas in your life that you can take some more risk in,
Hmm.
and understanding maybe some of the steps that you can take. I did post in there the different things. I did go over sort of 4 different posts there in the different types of steps that you can take when you're thinking about taking a risk. And next week, Kate, we're going to be shooting the shit. And then the week after, we're actually going to have Thomas LeMay on, and Thomas is going to
Yeah.
talk about men's mental health with men. And so he has a unique perspective. He's in the construction industry, one of the most, manly positions that you can
Yes.
be in, but also how that can impact the mental health for men. And so I think it's going to be a great topic that'll be in 2 weeks, and then I think we're lined up with people through maybe all the way through the end of September. So I'm excited about some of the people we have coming
Yeah.
up.
Lots of great folks coming up to interview and share with you all.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here and for all of the engagement. It was super fun to get your stories. You are welcome. Thank you, Leslie. I can't wait for next year, next April Fools.
Hmm. So, everybody, I hope that you have a great Friday. And as Kate
Yes.
says, fuel your Friday. And we hope that it leads you into an amazing weekend. I know, Kate, for me, I'm going to have an amazing weekend. I've got a massage and a hair appointment back to
Ooh,
back. So I'm looking forward to relaxing this weekend.
little bit of self-care. Yep.
Yes. And
We may
so
do some kayaking. We may do some house projects. we have a little bit of a down weekend, which is nice.
That's always nice. And so thank you everyone for joining us. We hope today's topic was insightful and helped you think about things in your own life. And we will see you again next Friday.
Thank you all.